to do some things. We'll see what I can do. Okay. So we're on 1995. And this is a year that would set the stage for the remainder of my 13-year relationship with this person I was with. We left off on New Year's Eve, 1994, and 1995, we would continue on, i.e., she didn't like the idea that I had to go back to work. Well, it's business as usual. I serve Uncle Sam. I don't know what part of that she didn't understand. Little did I know that 8 days into that new year, I would learn firsthand, and I stress to you, firsthand, why I would see a lot of trouble the remaining 12 years of my relationship. And bear in mind, in 94, I saw red flags, and I choose to ignore them. But the next 3 years of my life here with this woman would be the most unbearable 3 years of the whole relationship. The good news is, after 1998, I think it would tone down. It would tone down enough that she started to understand that, hey, don't push me too far. Just don't push me too far. Eight days into the new year, it seemed like a wrestling match. Not making this up. And when I say wrestling match, I'm talking another bad, a bad experience in the bedroom. I'm not defending my actions, what I did in the bedroom. Okay, let's make that clear. What I am saying is, this is the first time she took it to a ridiculous extreme. I was knocked down. I was punched. My nose was bleeding everywhere. I think the day after was the first time I went to work with a black eye. I went to work with a black eye. How is that fair? I'll give you the short answer. It's not fair. It's really not fair. She looked at it as she didn't have to go to work. Why? And this year I'm about to illustrate why I had a harder than hard time getting her to go to work. Which is yet another red flag, so don't get me started. Her friend comes down, her supposed bestie. They're riding on the town. She wanted to know if I could go, and I said, not really, I'm tired. She got an attitude about it. What you'll learn about her is, when she's around other people, if I didn't make her mad, she'd treat them like business as usual. But when she come around me, she would give me dirty looks. She would look at me angrily. She would look at me mean. And she would just downright nasty. And we'll get into that down the road. So I had 3 field training exercises from January to April. One was a company-wide One was a battalion wide, and one was a division wide. I want to say it was around the first, it was in between the first and second because there was a 7-day window where they would have us come in, take off, and then we go back for another 3-week endeavor. She didn't like that too much. And then when I was able to call her, like usual, I would say the wrong thing, not mean to. Maybe I'm dumb for saying these wrong things. And then she would ridicule me on the phone. And it was embarrassing. Very embarrassing. Well, after the second field problem, she decided to take a trip. During the second field problem, she decided to take a trip. And she took the Mustang. This was around February at that time. So everything was cool. Everything was good. I get back. I meet her at the motor pool. And she goes, I need to talk to you. I said, okay. She goes, we're back. We're okay. Okay. Cool. Something's wrong with the car. I go, okay, what's going on? She goes, well, we got outside of Memphis, and I want to say it was the, I'm not good at cars, bear with me here. I don't think it was the fan blade. Can't remember the extent. That went out on the car, and then they got down their home, and transmission quit working. And I'm sitting here going, so I'm essentially paying for a vehicle that cannot run. It's like, great. Nothing can seem to go right. So there was like, I want to say a 3 or 4 week window in between the second field problem and the third. So I had time to spend with her. And first night, just a lot of stress on me like usual. I'd say another week later, I would show up to work with a black eye and tired. And when I mean black eye and tired, Shiner, fatigued. So she would finagle me to make a promise to her to spend time with her. And I think it was on a Saturday. And I remember the first thing that happened that Saturday, I doze off. I'm just exhausted from the week. Part of it's boredom, but part of it's just I'm tired. And next thing I feel is a thick glass, one of those plastic tumbler glasses. They're thick. Hit me in the head. I'm sitting there going, what the heck? She goes, you need to stay awake. So your solution to staying awake is hitting me in the side of the head with a cup. Thanks. And then later on that day, I dozed off again, and I get smacked in the face. She goes, stay awake. So I not only get a cup thrown at my head, which hurt, but I get smacked. In between all this, the unit's trying to make sense of some things. Not so much me as it is her. And while her friend was here, there was a plan with the military where my service ID was essentially a credit card for services on base. And we bought stuff and we started accumulating debt. Well, I maxed out my maximum limit, which was $1,000. There was another weekend around that time where me and her got into another fight. Bloodied, beat up. So essentially, I do my damnedest to try not to make her mad. And little did I know that would be a chore. That would be a chore. So bills started to not get paid. And I remember the first time our electric got shut off. That's ahead in April, and I'll get to that here soon. We're kind of between February and March, so I'm trying not to get ahead of myself. So bear with me here. The car had to be picked up. I didn't know how we were going to get the car. That's a whole nother issue. I don't remember how we got the car, but we got the car. But bills weren't getting paid. Now, a lot of them was the fact I was just not thinking, not being a responsible person like I should have been. You know, me in 1995 is a completely different person than me now. Just to be clear. And around February or March, we're running out of money. Well, I got a notice from the Army. It was like, okay, you owe $1,000 on this service that you credited. You need to take care of this. Warning after another warning after. I think they gave me 5 warnings within a month's period. And I was trying to get those paid. But my simping ability to allow her to get into my money and take it before I was actually physically able to get it made it hard as hell. So I couldn't pay on it. So right before March, they send me a warning saying, well, if you're not going to pay on it, we have to garnish for services. And she was trying so hard. I said, look, I need some help here. I remember the night it happened. I need some help. I need you to get a job. She wasn't far away from a Dollar General. She wasn't far away from a convenience store. She wasn't far away from a laundromat. There was at least a few places she could have went to. But she made excuses like, oh, with the convenience store, I'm too young. I said, what about Dollar General? Well, I got to have this and that. It's like, I need help here. She wouldn't do it. No. She would find reasons or excuses to not do it. And essentially, it's another way of saying she was allergic to work. And you'll hear me make that reference. And part of it involves referenced how society at times is just too allergic to work. Allergic to working is not going to get things done. Allergic to working is not going to help the man. But she didn't care. But I remember a big fight that happened. I'd say it was between February and March. My team chief and section sergeant were going to take me to Memphis and find this car so we can make arrangements to get it back to where I was. So when I made an attempt to do this, I told her what was going on, and she goes, I don't even remember the extent of what the fight was about. All I know is it was another fight like 8 days into January. I mean, I got my clock cleaned. I no longer had one black eye. Both black eyes were present. And I had a bloody nose. So if they were going to pick me up that Saturday, I had to hide this the best I absolutely could. And damn that L word for what it does. Okay? Damn that L word. I was too much of a simp, apparently. I mean, she beat the hell out of me. So, the Saturday in question where they picked me up, everything was okay so far. They didn't notice a thing. They did not notice a thing. And my sunglasses kept slipping down. And the bruise on my left eye was bigger than the bruise on my right eye. And it was harder to hide. I tried to use a hat to cover it up. I tried to use sunglasses. I was making damn, and I kept looking down to make damn sure they didn't need to see. They did not need to see. But too bad, so sad, whatever. I don't remember whose car. I think it was my team chief's car that we used. And I'm sitting here going, okay. What do I do here? What do I do knowing that if they find out, first of all, I thought I was going to get my butt chewed. I really thought I was going to get my butt chewed for this. So I think my glasses slipped down to where my section chief could see the bruises. Could actually see the bruises. And he goes, Johnson, what the hell happened to you? And my team chief looked and he goes, she got you again, didn't she? I go, what do you mean? She goes, your wife, she got you again. My team chief knew what was going on. And he goes, we're going to take care of this business, but you're not going back there. So we did the trip to Memphis. We figured out a way to try to get the car back. And we get back to the deal. Section chief had a house on base. He goes, hang out here. We're going to figure out a permanent location for now. But you can't go back there, Johnson. You just can't. That's okay. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to think. And it angered me. And I was deluded by things I was thinking about involving her. And I'm sitting here going, I don't know. Did I get people in trouble? That's all I could think about. And the section chief had to let the platoon sergeant know what in God's green earth was going on. And I wasn't sure what the hell to think. And I get a lecture from him. I get a lecture from another section sergeant I had, the one that I can't stand, that I told you about in 1994. And he was giving me lectures about how you need to quit letting women whip your butt. Well, that damn L word, I tell you. So, fast forward to March. My platoon sergeant, platoon leader found out what happened, and they recommended counseling to the battery commander. Now I'm going to tell you some flaws with this whole situation. And I'm going to assume they knew things then. This was 1995 we're talking about here. First of all, if I got beat up, why didn't they take pictures? Why didn't they go to the police department and said, hey, we've got a service member that has been assaulted by his spouse. Broken nose, 2 black eyes. They didn't do that. So I go to the counseling sessions. I think they were once, twice a week, I think. And I tried to go to as many as I could. I desperately tried. And I don't know what went wrong. I honest to God don't know what went wrong. Maybe it was me. Maybe it was them. What I didn't know until later was they kept going over there talking to her, telling her, you need to have this squared away, you need to have that squared away. And the one I couldn't stand, who didn't use his brain, went over there. Why would you go over there? You're putting yourself in danger now, knowing darn well you've already had a service member put himself through danger himself. So I went through counseling for about 3 weeks. Now you would think my unit would be quite capable of handling the situation. I brought everything I needed to bring out at that counseling session. And I thought, we're making progress here. Well, the next field problem comes up. And I told the battery commander, sir, I don't think it's a good idea for me to go out in the field right now. Well, you need to put off your counseling. You need to go out in the field. This division-wide field problem. Great. Just flipping great. 3 weeks into my field problem, I get told, no. Blow it off, no problem. And believe me, when I went to these counseling sessions, I've seen men who are screwed up. I wouldn't say not as bad as me, but it was pretty bad. They had disagreements with their spouses and everything. One guy would literally put a set of BDUs in his trunk, and his spouse thought he was weird. But I did what I needed to do on how to try to heal the best I could. And I say best I could because I'm not so sure the unit was interested in helping me. And as I would find out later on, I would be put in the middle of some very screwed up situations. So I couldn't go to the counseling because I was ordered to go out in the field. And the field problem was around 3 months or 3 weeks. That took us into March. We would get back, and I started going over there and visiting with her at night until me and her finally got back together, and I moved back in. The unit did not like that. So much so that the platoon sergeant and the platoon leader had ammunition to do something very despicable to me. And to this, and just so we prepare for this moment, I am still looking for legal counsel. So if anyone knows a lawyer that specializes in military negligence, please send them my way. Put something in the comments, their information. Because in all honesty, I have been trying to get a lawyer for some time. When I mean some time, on the low end, at least 9 years. And I'm about to explain why a lawyer is necessary. Okay? We get back from the field problem. And by the way, let me set things up here some more. I would take probably 3 more weeks off, and then we would travel to Louisiana for another field training exercise in excess of 30 days. But leading to that moment, I had to qualify for the M16. Weapons qualification. Weapons qualification. And I'm sitting here going, okay. Well, I noticed my hearing earplugs were bad. Okay. I get onto the field, or the firing range, sorry. Got it distorted there. And I inform people, including the NCOIC and the OIC of the range, I don't have proper equipment. So if I got to do extra duty, it's okay. I don't have proper hearing protection. Because those M16s get loud. They really do get loud. Well, they informed me you need to go to the medevac vehicle and see if they have the equipment you need. And I said, okay. So I go there. And standard operating procedure says they're supposed to have them. Well, that particular day, they did not. They, honest to God, did not. And it really angered me that they didn't have any. So what was the story with the NCOSA and OIC of the range? They said, okay, no problem. Go ahead and get on the range. You'll qualify without them. I endured 8 hours of M16 gunfire, including night fire exercises. By the time I got out of the range, my ears were ringing so badly, it wasn't even funny. Couldn't hear for 3 days. I still have trouble to this day hearing what certain people say, their tones, their demeanors, everything. I can't even wear earbuds because when I went to the VA in 2014, they did determine there is damage. But I was told by them there's nothing we can do. Okay? I get it. If you ain't figured it out by now, I've been snubbed by any lawyer that wanted to take my case. So it made me question whether or not they wanted me to be there. And their action was nothing short of just wrongful duty. Again, where was the chain of command to do something about this situation? They pulled me out of counseling, didn't want me to get help. Nowhere to be found. Like usual, I was on my own. So we get into April, and I prepare for this field training exercise, fixing to leave to Fort Polk, Louisiana. Okay? Fort Polk. But what do I know? I'm just some guy. I was late. And let me tell you why. I was late because we rented a car and somehow we got into an argument. I don't even remember what the argument was about, but she sat there and literally dumped on everything. And here's another thing they like to do. They like to bring up the past. She used all my past transgressions against me. She used all, she condemned me because I made her have her bestie go back home because her bestie was causing some problems. She condemned me over her bestie. She even condemned me over having her there. And it's like, you don't need to be here. You can go home. And then the argument got worse. Every time I had a counter argument for her points, it would get worse. She would condemn me. She would threaten to kill herself in front of me. This woman, I don't know what was her problem. Actually, I kind of did, but it was angering me to no end. But because of her action, I get a counseling statement saying I was late for a movement. I was late by like 2 minutes. Didn't matter. You're late to a movement. She didn't care. She wanted me to get in trouble. So this is my point. She put me in the middle. It was them, it was her, and I'm in the middle. They would condemn me over not listening to them because of her. she would condemn me over actions involving them. And she made a note in some of these arguments we had, she didn't give a damn what they did. She basically made it clear, you need to listen to me. Stop listening to them. How is that beneficial? Give you a short answer. It's not. So I would be gone for a month. Little did I know, bills were coming due, and I was not able to pay them. Because during this process, while I was gone, the deal garnished my wages. I think I made, at that point, $1,200. I'll put it like this. There were 3 paychecks that went by that was less than $300 because they were taking a good chunk of that paycheck to pay off that deal. We'll get to that here soon. So I was in Fort Polk. I was there for about a month. I would call her about twice a week. Number one, I think the second or third call, she would condemn me over not calling enough. Well, if I ain't got the money to call you, how am I going to call you? Her excuse was, well, you need to find one of their phones there and use that. That way you ain't got to pay for it. What? And I said, look, when I get back, you need to find a job. I need help. Wasn't interested at all. I told her, I said, look, I can get one of the wives of the NCOs to help you. To literally help you. Just tell me and we'll make it happen. No. I don't know. So we get into May. Money's a little tough. I get back and I get told, if this inspection goes good, we had an inspection right after we got back. My platoon sergeant goes, if everything goes good, I'm putting you through air assault school. We're going to give it another shot. I said, okay. Fingers crossed. I was really hoping for this. I wanted to go. Things got tight. And I do mean tight. Very, very tight, money-wise. I remember eating MREs. I remember eating bread and peanut butter and all that. And I remember us not having much. We were scrimping and scraping because of the garnishments. Was that my fault? It was my fault for not looking into possibly keeping things on the up and up. I tried to make up for it by having the best intimacy I could have. And about 60% of the time, it worked out. Of course, there was at least 20% where she got on this premise, she felt used. She said she was, I'm not going to use those derelict words, like she was comparing herself to being a prostitute. I go, no, that's not the case. You're my wife and I care about you. She didn't want to hear that. So after I got back, my unit had to go through what's called a DRF factor. Deployment Readiness Factor is what it stands for. And if we're on DRF2, we have to be guard duty reactionary force for an excess of day and a half. And I remember the time that we went with DRF2 and I had to pull guard duty. She was angry. She goes, that means you can't be here. I said, I'm sorry. This is part of what Uncle Sam is. I remember one instance she got really angry. And I was trying to hide. She threw a dagger at me. It poked me in the chest. Not making this up, folks. I got the scar. I'm not going to show you that one. But when we do the next video, 1996, there is a scar I am going to show you. So I went to guard duty with, I'd say, 2 messed up wounds. They were small wounds, thank God. And a messed up nose. Because she messed this nose up so bad. I think that weekend alone, I had issues getting the bleeding to stop. Thank God the guard duty place had food. Kept my energy up. That was over. Thank God. So I get a meeting with the platoon sergeant. He goes, Johnson, congratulations. You're going to air assault school. Now, I went through 3 classes, believe it or not, during that duration. I failed the first one right away. They managed to get me in the second one. So, okay. Passed the obstacle course. I had to take care of another problem. I said, look, if you got to recycle me, go right ahead. So I made it to day 3, and they said, no, we don't want to start you over. We'll just recycle you into a 3rd class that happens to be on day 3 as well. I think the next day I came back and I was on day 3. With that class, I got to day 5. And I had gotten a new section chief and somebody else. I don't remember the extent. They said, we're pulling you out of air assault school. And I said, why? They said, we just got a call from your landlord. Apparently you owe them money. And I said, yeah, because I'm being garnished. Well, in that case, we need to go to Army Emergency Relief so you can get some help. I said, well, what about air assault school? Basically, I had this handled. I had something worked out with the landlord, but the landlord just could not wait for their money. And they contacted the unit. So that was taken away from me. The rest of the duration I'm in the Army, I would never be able to go back to air assault school. That was done. It's history. So we get into June. And there's a giant communion of people I have to meet with. The battery commander, the 2 first sergeants, both of them were fraught. The second one would end up getting his stripe to be an official EA. I don't want to get into details what frock means. If I was on one of my other channels, I would tell you. My former platoon sergeant, who was being replaced by the one who messed these up, thanks a lot. The executive officer, the platoon leader, my old section chief, and the E6 that I didn't want to deal with. They all bombarded me all at once over the indebtedness thing. You need to pay your bills. You need to do this. You need to do that. Two of them popped up. Well, you shouldn't be letting her tell you what to do. And then two of them had to make the slide remark, of course, we would help you, but you decide to go back. No, you didn't help me because your agenda was more important than getting me the help I needed. And one of them piped up and said, don't you want to be here no more? And finally I snapped. I said, you know what? I think you guys all want me out of here. Let me help you out. They were in shock. They had all pushed me to a point. And the battery commander had been getting counsel statements and reprimands from the battalion commander over his actions. How are we supposed to know what the technical SOP is supposed to be if you don't even give it to your people? Don't even give it to the XO. Don't even give it to the platoon leaders. Don't even give it to the platoon sergeant. Somebody's got to know. But you're going to jump our butts over something we didn't know. See, this is what I'm saying. They put me in the middle. And I finally had enough. I said, I'm done. You guys are not helping me. You're not even doing the things you were supposed to do. And you subjected me to things. I wasn't going to say no. I wasn't sure about it. But I did every little thing you told me to do. Because had I said no, I'll put it like this. The incident involving my ears, had I disobeyed, the second lieutenant said, I forgot to tell you. The OIC and the NCOSA of the range was my platoon leader and platoon sergeant. Platoon leader told me, if you don't do this, I will have you court-martialed. He damaged my ears under a threat of court-martial. This is what I mean, i.e. putting me in the middle. We fast forward to July. Things are in motion. Other people in the unit start accusing me of things like misplacing keys. I had the motor pool's platoon sergeant tell me, where's those keys? I gave them to you back in March. See, the unit, my battery unit, was under intense scrutiny at that time because, long story short, when the first platoon sergeant ETS'd and retired, the new platoon sergeant took over. Him and a section sergeant did not overlook the fact that they had equipment missing. And when I mean equipment, I'm talking a Singar radio and 3 M16 rifles. The new platoon sergeant and the new section sergeant were about to get field grade Article 15s and bars to re-enlist because they could not account for that equipment. But they had no problem not bothering the old platoon sergeant about the situation. No problem. This is how demented that unit was. And it was led by a man who, I don't know what his problem was. He didn't mind me coming to the unit enough. He didn't like the fact the woman I was with. Because him and her were at odds even. She would go behind his back and tell on the battalion commander and him butted heads. No, I'm not making this up. But anyway, back to July. I apologize. I'm sorry I got distracted. We have rented another car again since the Mustang. And by the way, the Mustang, long story short, that ends up in a transmission shop and they try to hit me for $3,000. You have no idea how much I wanted to cancel the payment on the car. But I couldn't because that's indebtedness, Johnson. You can't do that. But she took me back to the unit for lunch. She wanted to spend extra time with me. I said, look, I got to go back. It was another indoctrinating session of bringing up the past and how I don't pay attention to her and how I fall asleep on her and how I make promises to her and how I'm not making it up to her in the bedroom, even though I did. She was using psychological warfare to make me miserable. And long story short, when I got out of the car and went to another sergeant, let him know why I was late, I did low crawls in the mill van. And the mill van is those giant storage containers they use on the east and west coast and other places. When I mean roll crawl, I'm talking using my arms to get around. Not right. That guy got in trouble for it, by the way. Because 95, things were starting to change from Vietnam era to Gulf era. So we get into August. I get a bar to re-enlist. If I change my behavior and turn things around, they will reassess it and get back with me. But I had a bar to re-enlist because of the indebtedness. So I decided to split my checkup into two semi-monthly payments. And I kept asking her, you got to get another job. I need help here. No, she didn't want to. Even though she was at that point 19. Get a job at the laundromat. Get a job at the Dollar General. Get a job at the convenience store. Get a job somewhere. There's places further down. Oh, I'm not doing that. No. She didn't want to do that. She had no interest. August came. My paperwork came to leave the military. So we started transitioning out. Well, I had post police. Post police, basically, you're in charge of cleaning up the fort, mowing the lawns, picking up trash, all that. Now, usual rule of thumb, they would let out at 5 o'clock. We're dismissed for the day. She wanted to go donate. And she says, you need to hurry up. I said, I'm under orders. I can't. She goes, screw them, leave. I go, I can't do that. I'm under orders. So at around 3:30, I asked my platoon sergeant, hey, can you get someone to relieve me? There's things I have to take care of. No, he wouldn't do it. Once again, he played that card of, oh, it's you. No, I'm not helping you. I'm not helping you at all. I kept trying to tell her, I can't. Go without me. She goes, no, I can't. You need to come. And then she would get into indoctrinating excuses as to why. Condemning me. She even smacked me in the face. She goes, you need to stand up and tell them to help you. I'm trying. They said no. He said no. So what does she do? She says, get in the car, I'll kick your ass. And I said, why? We need to get this done. As like the gritting teeth reaction. Like, wow. I can't believe this. I literally cannot believe this. I said, I got to at least tell my unit, you ain't got to tell them nothing. So I left. So I get home. And about 9 o'clock at night, I get a knock on the door. It's my first sergeant. He goes, son, you need to come outside. I go, first sergeant, what's going on? They said, do you know you got MPs looking for you? What do you mean, first sergeant? They're saying you went AWOL. Luckily, he had his cell phone and he called the MPs. Call off the search. We found him. And for 30 minutes, me and him talked. It wasn't. And let me set the table for this first sergeant. His first sergeant's name was Patrick. Okay, he was the second first sergeant that was frocked, but he earned his stripes. He sat down on the curb with me and he talked and he goes, son, I want to share something with you. I said, okay. He goes, I can relate to your situation. So he takes off his glasses and he goes, look at my nose. And I noticed and it was crooked. I said, why is it crooked, first sergeant? He goes, I've been in your shoes. Early on in my Army career, I had a wife that was domestically abusive too. So I can relate to your situation. He goes, I am doing my absolute damnedest to give her the benefit of the doubt. He goes, I know what she's done to you. It's not right. It's wrong. You deserve so much better. He goes, I hope you two work it out, but if it has to do with her, I can talk to her. And I explained the situation, what happened. And long story short, he had a nice little talk with that platoon sergeant. I said, I'm not going to lie, platoon sergeant, I've been in so much trouble with him, it's not even funny. And I don't know what I did wrong. Was my mistake taking her back? I don't know. In my eyes, now that I see it, my mistake was taking her back. I should have just sent her home and be done with it. And I don't know why I didn't do it. But who knows? Little did I know that he was my safety net, believe it or not. He stuck his neck out for me. More than I'll ever understand. Because he can relate to the situation involving domestic violence, domestic abuse, whatever you want to call it. We get to September, and I'm about to final out. I remember 2 incidences between the 1st and 15th of September. The first was her being herself. She was trying to play off like she was with child again. She wasn't with child. It was all an act. She was threatening to do this to it, do that to it, condemning me. It's like, when does this stop? When does this stop? And I don't know. Because I kept enduring it. I kept, just like the guy on MLD. The solution to his problems is endure it. You shouldn't divorce a woman because if she's abusing you, you should endure it. That's how he looks at it. And by the way, when I pretty up this video, in the description, I'm going to put in a link to a song that demonstrates the kind of warfare she was using against me. It correlates with a song that has to do with little man syndrome, if you catch my drift. But I want to move on to September. That was the first incident. The second one was the night we left, the morning we left Fort Campbell. We needed to turn in the rental car, and she goes, oh, good, just go turn it in. I go, I can't. If I turn it in and there's nobody there, they can get me for theft. That was their policy. That was their protocol. I don't know if the police would have done anything, but I wasn't willing to take that chance. And she kept demeaning me, saying, you need to quit being this. You need to quit being a wuss. You need to actually just turn it in and screw it. Luckily enough, we sat there till 5 a.m. and finally the guy showed up. He goes, sir, can I help you? I said, we need to turn in this car. He goes, okay. We turn in the car. And then on the way back to the house for our final rest before we, she goes, you need to start listening to me. And I didn't even know what that was about. I honestly didn't. It's like, I'm trying to do the right thing here. Why are you condemning me? What did I do to deserve this? Seriously. So we leave out, long drive. I felt bad because I couldn't stay up enough. I got through part of the trip. We get back here around 16th, 17th September 95. Spend the night at her mom's. We're there for about a month. I do unemployment for a while because, quite frankly, I'm burned out. I needed a break. I just needed a break. Little did I know that the minute I left Fort Campbell, my safety net would be gone. First Sergeant Patrick couldn't look out for me. And, on a side note, I want to say the week or two before we left, our electricity got shut off. We wanted to shut it off because I wanted to get them paid off eventually when I got home and be done with them. So, we get home. I'd say we lived with her mom for about 2 or 3 months. She goes away for a while. We go away for a while. Not much really happened. When she wanted to donate plasma here, I said, look, donating plasma makes me hungry. I'm sorry. And she goes, well, you need to stop eating like a pig. Stop acting like you need food all the time. So now you're going to tell me how to eat. Great. Demean me some more. No problem. You've been doing it all year. And then we get to Christmas Eve, 1995. She was spending money like crazy. I'm not kidding. The unemployment money, what little money she would get from her friends. She didn't know the words responsibility, and I don't know why. But in 1995, if there's one thing I figured out, if there was reasons why I needed things, She make excuses. And as I get into 96 and 97, and even 98 and 99, you will figure out why she makes excuses. And I'm sitting here going, okay, you're here now. There's plenty more opportunity right by where we're at. Nope, couldn't give up party style. That was one of her problems. So we get to Christmas Eve. And she's glad to be home and all this. And a little bit here, a little bit there. Oh, by the way, Thanksgiving, her and her mom got into a skirmish. Because, yeah, she wanted Thanksgiving, but she also wanted to party some more. Drink and all that jazz. Personally, I think drinking's overrated. But we get to Christmas Eve. Her and her mom had been at odds leading up to this moment. I remember the argument like it was clockwork. Her and her mom get into an argument, get into a disagreement. One put a hand over the other and got mad, and apparently mom got hurt. I don't remember the extent of it. I'm not trying to BS you here because I honestly don't remember. What I do remember is her mom got hurt. So her mom called the police. She was only wanting to teach her daughter a lesson. I get it. But it's the classic, if you don't take care of things when you were supposed to take care of them, they will come back to haunt you. And this city happened to pass a grandfather law where if it's older than 2 years, and I'm not just talking about crimes, I'm talking about traffic citations. If they're older than 2 years, it's grandfathered in, and you got to take care of it. Good news is, they weren't going to arrest her for DV. Instead, they arrested her over a traffic issue back in 93. Yeah. And there was a warrant for her arrest. She had missed court, bomb forfeiture bench warrant. We have to take her downtown. So I spent Christmas Day trying to make sense of things, get things together. She's sitting there crying, wants out, and I said, there's nothing I can do. You got to go in front of the judge. She went in front of the judge, I want to say 26th or 27th. Okay, we're going to set a court date. Your bond is this price. I think she got out right before New Year's Eve, 1995. She had to take care of those obligations. Cops wanted to know if mom wanted to press charges. Mom said no. And that's where we are going to leave that story. 1995 in a nutshell. And I'm going to leave a message for all of you out there who are victims of domestic violence. If you are a victim, get some help. There is a toll-free number. Give me a second here. Oh, I don't have my other phone. There is a domestic violence hotline. Look it up online. It will show you the number. Doesn't matter if you're a man. Doesn't matter if you're a woman. If you need help from your spouse who is giving you abuse-style problems, do not be afraid to say something. If if you endorse something, say something, please. The ones that do not get help are the ones that don't let people know they need help. And as I continue my story, I'm going to talk to you about how things will get worse over time. And I have another video in the works involving Phil Hartman. And then as soon as I'm done with the Phil Hartman deal, we're going to move on to other stuff. That being said, you guys take care. And I hope to hear from you again. And if you're seeing this recorded, please put a comment in the general comments or in the chat. A, what you thought about the video, and B, your thoughts on things about domestic violence. With that being said, thank you and take care.